To our Bulldog Cafe tonight. We are delighted that you are here. We have special guest presenters. That will be Miss Honeywell, she's on her way, Miss Ramsey, and Miss Dawes. We're delighted that they're here tonight. And at this time, I'm going to ask Miss Dawes if she will just give us some words of wisdom, simply because she's been here forever today. It took nothing but dedication in order for her to do this. I just think, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. This is great. She has been in this business for quite some time. I don't think she does not know me, but I know of her because she's taught my children. So, let's welcome her and other staff members.
I thought that one of the things that I would like to do tonight is to tell you how chunk writing came about, what started it. About 25 years ago in California, of course, where else, always in California, new things start there. There were a bunch of English teachers who got together and who decided that they were going to see what they could come up with to help students write better paragraphs. So they gave several hundred students an assignment. They all had the same assignment. I don't know what it was. I'm sorry, I can't tell you that. But anyhow, they had to write a paragraph about whatever topic it was that they were given. Then they took those hundreds of paragraphs and gave them to just random English teachers, and they had the English teachers grade them. So then they went and they looked at all the ones that were good. They weren't interested in the ones that weren't done well. They wanted to know what the kids did that made a paragraph a good paragraph. So they started analyzing, the people who were doing this project, they started analyzing what they were doing, and they realized that unconsciously that good writers follow the same pattern when they develop a paragraph. Now, this pattern, they finally figured out a good way. What they wanted to do was to label the pattern so that the students could follow it. They could say, okay, this is the first step, and then this is the second step, and so forth and so on. And it's just like, it's like learning how to ride a bicycle. Once you get it under, and you understand that's what you're supposed to be doing, and sometimes it might take 2 or 3 years to do this. But once it becomes unconscious, and then the student doesn't have to think about it anymore, then they've got it. It's just like getting on a bicycle, even after years. You haven't ridden one, you can get right back on it and you've got your balance. And that's what you want. You don't want the kid to have to sit there and worry over how the paragraph is going to be put together. You want him to be, or her to be, thinking about what they're going to say. What is so, important. Once they get the pattern, I tell you, it just takes the stress out of writing. Also, you can go in, and I have done this. I have pulled out Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter, and I have found passages in there where he followed chunk writing. And of course, nobody had ever heard of chunk writing then. And I know people, and certainly we never taught this when I was coming along. I wish we had. It would have made things a lot easier because it helps your writing to be stress-free. Now, I could stand here tonight and give you all kinds of stories about kids who went off to college and how well they did in college, and how they send us, the English teachers here, emails to say, my college professor says, who taught you to write? This is great. But I'm not going to do that. I mean, I could name names in colleges. I really could. I could also tell you, and I have to be perfectly honest with you, and say that twice I have had a student come to me and say, my professor didn't like it. And I said, well, that's too bad. And I said, what did you do? And they said, well, I had to learn to do it the way he said. I said, yeah, that's right. And you make that adjustment, of course, and you learn to do it the way he said. But the overwhelming number of students who go off to college have a success with this pattern. Now, I will tell you one story of a little girl that graduated from Thomasville High School, and she went to the University of Georgia. and she was in an English class at the University of Georgia. And she started making C's on her papers. She wasn't used to making C's on her papers. She wanted to do better than that. But she said, and she sent me this long email afterwards, and she said, this is what happened. She said, I got in that class and I thought, well, thank goodness, Miss Stowers is not my teacher anymore, and I don't have to write in chunks if I don't want to. And so she said, I didn't do it. And she said, I was making C's on my papers. And finally she said, I just said mentally, okay, you win. I'll use chunks on my next paper. And she said from then on I was making A's. Now, does her teacher know what chunks are? No. But what it is just simply a way of ordering the paragraphs so that it makes sense. And we start in the 6th grade, we go right on through all the way up into the 12th. So everybody in the English department requires this. So it's not one of these things that you as parents can't learn. You can learn too. And that's what we're doing here tonight, is we want to get together and show you, and we've got some packets. We want to get together and work with you and show you what it is that we expect and how easy it is, really. So if you will join us, and what we're going to need to do is kind of consolidate groups a little bit, I think. All right, what we have here on the first page is a silly little example that I wrote myself, okay? So this is my recipe for beef stew, all right? The topic is how to make beef stew, okay? So here's the first paragraph. Topic sentence. There are 3 important things to remember in making a pot of beef stew. First thing is to purchase the right kind of beef. After you've acquired the beef, cut it into cubes and then sear the cubes in hot oil, a most important step. Finally, add the vegetables and cook over low heat for several hours. And then the clincher sentence, the bottom one, served in a white stew bowl, it is cheerful and pleasant to the eye as well as to the tongue. All right, that's not much of a paragraph, but that's what a lot of people think is a paragraph. I mean, it's got, I was taught 5 sentences make a paragraph. And so that's 3, 4, 5. 5 sentences. So what we want to do is we want to take each of the sentences, all right, topic sentence, and then each of those 3 middle sentences are going to be what we call concrete detailed sentences, hereafter referred to as the CD sentence. They're just a CD sentence, okay? Now the idea about chunk writing is you're going to take each CD sentence and you're going to expand on it a little bit. You're going to write a couple more sentences about that CD sentence. So what I've done on the second example, see, is I have in italics the first sentence, which is the topic sentence. One of the things that kids will do sometimes, they'll make a mistake and they'll try to start off with the CD sentence, and you can't do that. You have to start off with the topic sentence, okay? So, topic sentence. Then I put it in bold print so it'll stand out. The next sentence is the CD sentence. It's a concrete detail. The first thing is to purchase the right kind of beef. Yes. Now I'm going to talk about that. So the next 2 sentences are what we call commentary sentences. And they are referred to as CM sentences. Commentary. Yeah, I'm commenting on the CD sentence. Commentary. Okay? So, purchasing the right kind of beef, what am I going to say about that? I'm going to say, many people like the chuck roast because it retains its flavor when it's cooked a long time. However, my preference is the top loin. It's more tender, so it doesn't require such a long time to cook, and it has less fat in it. Now, I've been more specific, you see, about purchasing the right kind of beef. I've told you what to purchase. This is what I like, because this is my recipe, so I'm saying this is what I do to make beef stew, okay? Now, there's no doubt about it now. Before, there would have been doubt about it. I mean, what is the right kind of beef? Now I've explained it. All right, this much from the CD sentence to the 2 commentary sentences is what we call a chunk. That's a chunk. The chunk is composed of the CD sentence plus commentary sentences. And at first, you know, it's kind of like, you gotta learn the rules, and then after you learn the rules, then you can break them. But you gotta know the rules first. So for the first 2 or 3 years, everybody has to do it this way. Can they go off and be creative? No, they can't. Not gonna let you do that. Why? Because I'm trying to teach you a pattern, and you can't be creative yet. Actually, I let them start being creative in the 11th grade, and I'll show you later that 12th grade just goes crazy with that, but they're still following the pattern. So in the 6th grade, in the 7th grade, in the 8th grade, they have to do it this way. No variation in this pattern, okay? Until they've got it. All right. Then, notice that we're going to the next chunks. All right, so one of the things that we want to do is to have transition between the chunks because you want your paragraph to flow nicely, right? So, on your first CD sentence, I said the first thing. In the second CD sentence, I say after, okay? So now we go into the next step. After you've acquired the beef, cut it into cubes and then sear the cubes in hot oil, a most important step. Now I'm going to develop that a little bit. Some people think to take a shortcut and skip this step, but that's a mistake. When you sear the sides of the cubes so that they turn brown, you're keeping the flavor inside so it doesn't leach out in the cooking. See, now I've explained it. What did the CD sentence say? It said that was an important step. So now I'm explaining it in the commentary sentences. Okay? All right, now, last chunk. See the first word? Finally. Is a transition. Okay, so I had the first thing, and then I say, after you do that, and then the next word is finally. And there are all kinds of transition words that you can use. You can use consequently. Am I talking too loud? Am I bothering you? No. Okay. All right. You know me, I'm loud. Okay. Consequently, however, on the other hand, you know, all kinds of things just to make it flow. You want flow. Now, believe me, people who are not English teachers will read this and they will think, oh, what a nice paragraph. They won't know why. That's okay. They don't have to know why. We just want them to read it and be impressed and think, what a nice flow that is to that paragraph. What a good writer that student is. Wow, that's nice. Okay? All right, but it takes conscious work at following these steps. Okay, so finally, add the vegetables and cook over low heat for several hours. And now I'm going to talk about adding the vegetables. I like ground onions, potato cubes, cut up carrots, and added canned tomato pieces or pureed tomatoes. Tomatoes may seem an odd choice, but we like this in our family. The stew then has a pleasant dark red look to it, and with an added dash of Worcestershire sauce and Tabasco, perhaps some basil leaves, it is very flavorful. Okay? Now that's the third chunk. Now, in 6th grade and 7th grade and 8th grade, you require 2 chunks. Oh, do you? 3? Okay.
I'm doing 3 in 7th grade.
All right, well, good.
All
All right. When I was teaching 6th grade, we always made them do 2 chunks. But once you know how to do a chunk, if you've got something to write about, it's very easy to add another one. And see how nice that makes that paragraph? Instead of having 5 sentences, now we got 11. And in fact, this is what I say to them over and over again, count these sentences. If you don't have 11 sentences in that paragraph, then something's wrong. You've left something out. So,
3 chunks are required per paragraph.
unless they're 6th graders. Or whatever the teacher says.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think I did that in the 6th grade too. I started out with 2 chunks, and maybe in the spring we were adding another chunk in there. It just depends on what the teacher says.
Pretty straightforward requirement, or does it go over?
Well, that's a really good question.
Okay, did everybody hear that question? You say it out loud so that everybody can hear that.
The question is, does this transfer to science and history and other subjects? It's just, the chunks are just an English requirement. And that is right. The chunks, your social studies teachers and your science teachers are not going to say, write in chunks, but this is what they are going to say. They're going to say, write it like your English teacher told you to. Because I keep hearing from them all the time in other departments. Yeah,
When they do like short answers and different
That's
essay
right.
formats on their
Right.
test, and especially like with the science fair reports and things of that nature, I mean, the aerial, all the teachers I've heard since I've been here at Scholars just reiterate the fact that they can tell the students that have mastered that because their answer is well developed. They gain more points on those open-ended responses on their test because they're covering everything. They don't write just one sentence and they're done. They know, I need some evidence, I need the concrete details, and then I need the explanation to follow. I must have that commentary. So it does carry, it definitely carries through to their other subjects, even math, where they have to write and explain what they're doing in a math problem.
And they may not ask for it by do chunk writing. They
Right.
just say, write well, give detail. So they're looking for those things. They may not call it chunk writing.
Exactly.
But this kind of writing translates into every subject area.
Yes. I would wholeheartedly say the students that apply this to all the writing examples that they do
Yes.
receive higher marks in all of their subject areas, as a consequence of it.
Also, with the milestones test, that is very important. The responses and how you write and fill in the answers and just not make one statement, as you said earlier. That's significant. It's very important. And it's a little bit complicated when they first took the test. But now they're starting to understand the process. I'm saying our children are starting to understand the process. They understand how to write in a complete format and give them.
Well, the organization is so important. That's something that they rate highly on the milestones. And especially when you're in a time test environment where they don't have so much, you don't have days to develop what it is you want to say. You have 100 minutes or 70 minutes. The more efficient that they are at organizing their ideas in the chunk format is going to ensure that they have enough evidence, they have enough of the ratio of the evidence with the explanation. And if they cover that basis in the milestones or the other in-course tests that they take, they're bound to do very well on the written responses.
they're not just sitting there going, okay, now what do I do next and how do I, because they've got the pattern already done and already memorized, and they've written that pattern so much that it makes the writing a lot simpler. Now, are there any questions about this first page before I go on? Okay? That's the conclusion. Or some teachers call that a clincher sentence. Yeah. And what you want to do with your conclusion, of course, is just to summarize what you said in the paragraph. Not in exactly the same words, but you're pulling it all together. Yeah. And sometimes when the kids are first learning, they'll leave that sentence off. That's why I say 11 sentences, or if it's 2 chunks, then you're going to have 8 sentences. Count them up. And so they'll either leave it off, or they'll just restate the topic sentence, which is not good. I mean, you have to do it in little different words. You can't just copy it, okay? All right, now this next page is all of us who teach the chunk writing. We always give the kids an outline to follow. And so, I tried to get it all on one page because I didn't want to use another sheet of paper, but normally I would space this out, have a lot of space in there. And so then I would have sentence 1, topic sentence, and leave enough space for them to write the topic sentence. Write your topic sentence there. And then, what's your first CD sentence? Put your first CD sentence there. Actually write it on the outline. And then your first commentary sentence, and then your second commentary sentence. And then when they get them all worked out, and for some kids don't have to do this, but everybody's brain is not the same. And there are students who, once they have the outline and they actually put the sentences on the outline, then the light bulb goes on. Oh yeah. Right. And so what you want to do then is, and they will bring it up to the teacher. Almost every English teacher that I know here has conference days where the kid can come up and talk to the teacher about what they've written. And so I would say, in that situation, show me your outline, where are your sentences, and then read them through and make sure, okay, this is a pitfall. The hardest thing about chunk writing is sometimes the kids don't know what to do in sentence 3 and 4. They've got the CD sentence, but now, what am I supposed to do about that? Now, they're not writing about how to make beef stew. They're writing about why Achilles was such a great hero on the battle plains of Troy. And so then they'll come up with a CD sentence, what he did, And I would say, all right, now what you've got to do is tell a little bit more about that. And that's the thing that takes more practice, don't you think? That the commentary
The
sentences?
commentary sentences definitely take more practice, because the pre-writing, when I first started teaching Chunk, I even had the students, for my benefit as well, literally label everything in the paragraph, like when they would type up, their formal draft, it had CD, CM, CM, so that I was accounting for it as well as, them getting in the practice of it. But we worked a lot last year and this year will as well on pre-writing. And we work on our pre-writing, they get the evidence, they get the CDs flushed out so they know what they're going to include in their paragraph and how to organize, this is going to be in one paragraph and it's going to have this topic. For example, the different themes in Alice in Wonderland is what we've just been talking about. So the theme of madness, the theme of identity, and the theme of rudeness of adults. So they would have three chunk body paragraphs, one paragraph targeted on each of those themes. And so they'll draft out in their pre-writing the different concrete details that what they want to use. What's the evidence from the novel that supports that theme of rudeness of adults or supports the theme of madness or identity? And then the commentary is definitely what we spend more time on because they've read the book, they've comprehended it, so they've got the text there. They know what details that they want to use, but now it's explain it, like Ms. Howard was saying, explain it a little further, take it a step farther, and that I find that to be the case 7th, 10th, and honestly even 12th when we're having conference days and I'm sitting there, they're bringing to me a paragraph at the time for revision, and for help and assistance. The commentary is usually what needs the most tweaking. Because sometimes they'll even repeat themselves. Like Ms. Howard was saying, if they can't think of, what to say on the commentary in an effort to get something down because they know they need those two commentary sentences, sometimes they'll sound very, repetitive. And we'll go back and look at that and I'll think, okay, from what other angle can you explain this, or what's another opinion that you have here? So, I support what you're saying.
And evidence, y'all, is just so important. It just goes right on through into college, into graduate school. I had a former student who was writing her dissertation on bioethics at Johns Hopkins. And she was doing with her professors, her dissertation, going over it, and they said to her, "You're such a good writer. Where did you learn to write like that?" Of course, her mother had to let me know. I said, "Oh, of course." Yeah, it works. If it's in the 6th grade, it works all the way through. Everybody wants evidence. You've got to be able to prove what you're saying is right. And when you get into talking about literature, sometimes I will say to my students, if you put down there something that I didn't see before, that's fine. You've got the evidence in there, and I don't even have to agree with you. It's not the idea of I'm trying to write what you think. I want you to write what you think. And if you've got something in there that I haven't seen before, and if you've backed it up, even if I disagree with you, if you've backed it up, if you've got the evidence, and where's the evidence going to come? In the commentary sentences. See, that's why they're so important.
Well, and I say to Sarah too, just with my own daughter in 7th grade, I know they don't necessarily come from elementary school, and they're not necessarily asked their opinion. They have learned to store things in a short-term memory and give it back to the teacher. These are the facts, I memorize them, and I give it back. And no one's really stopped to say, why does that work? I know on the 8th grade Georgia Milestones last year, I was the proctor at the high school for our 8th graders. And even in math, long gone are the days where you just pick C because I didn't know what else to pick, and I'm feeling a little lucky. You're given a box after you pick C, and in that box you have to explain how did you come up with C. And if you don't, even if C is the right answer and your child marks C, they do not get the credit for that answer unless their commentary in the box supports C. So there are readers and they're seeing whether their answer matches or their explanation matches how they came up with that answer. And so what's wonderful about this, that brings kind of our curriculum all the way around full circle, is that yes, it's used in science and it's used in math, and it makes them independent thinkers, and it gives them a voice as to come up with the commentary. Because it's easy to throw out a detail. They're so accustomed to taking AR tests, and parents come all the time in 6th grade and they say, but my baby had an A. In 5th grade, we've never made anything less than an A in reading and writing. That's their strength. They were the highest AR point awarded child at whatever elementary school they came from. And so there's a disconnect. And I believe that's because you can read a 500-page Harry Potter novel and take a 5-question AR test and make 100, and you think, my kid can comprehend. And the disconnect there is, do they have an opinion about it? You know, did they pick out any, yes, they may have picked details, but can they support it? So it does work full circle, or it has with my own. It's been really exciting to kind of watch her kind of transform.
And I would ask both of you, coming out of elementary school, what I've noticed in agreement with Zoltan is that they come ready to regurgitate facts. And so when you ask them a question to write something, they give you CD, 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 CD. Just fact, 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 straight through. And like she said, there's no commentary, there's no fleshing it out. Yet they'll write a ton, and they get hung up on that. But I wrote 3 pages. But you wrote 3 pages of straight facts with no fleshing out of the information. So do you see that as they come in? That's where you got to break them of the habit of just, I got to cram as many facts in here as I can. To make good writing, you've got to flesh those facts out.
Yeah, you see it more when you start trying to do this and they go, and you get to the CM sentences and they say, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And it is a shock to 6th graders. It's a big shock. But it's something that's got to be done. You see it's got to be done. Absolutely. Right. Okay, if you look at the 3rd page now, this is an example of what Dawn Honeywell, who couldn't make it, she was at, had a doctor. Oh, there she is. Hey. I can't see, just have my eyes dilated, but I'm here. Well, all right. I was just about to go over the page that you gave me, so just chime in whenever you want to.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so Dawn gives this to her 6th grade, and this is an example of what she shows them. She wrote the paragraph herself. She shows them how to do this. There's the explanation, which this is what we've been talking about. All right, now here's the topic sentence. This is about the Trojan War, or just Greek mythology.
Greek mythology.
Greek mythology.
Theseus,
All right.
Minotaur.
Okay, so your topic sentence is Theseus has characteristics of a true mythic hero, which they've been talking about, mythic heroes in mythology. All right, now here's a commentary, a CD sentence. For example, although his real father was a king, the mother told everyone that the father was Poseidon, the god of the sea. Now, we want to develop that a little bit. So the commentary says, explaining identity in the ancient world depended on the father. And the next commentary says, because Theseus had a claim to both a king and a god, or his father, he has an unusual birth, which is one of the characteristics of a mythic hero. So there's your first chunk. And then what she did, see, she set it up. She got the TS for the topic sentence, and she left a space in there. So the kids can put, here's another one. Zeus is an incredibly angry god who punishes others. I'm not going to read the whole thing, you can read it. But then you got your commentary sentence, your CD sentence, then commentary. Then we're going to get to another CD sentence, because we got another chunk going here. Notice the in addition. That's the transition phrasing. Zeus counseled with the other gods to get revenge on man, and the result was the creation of Pandora. Commentary, who is Pandora? Pandora is the character who did all of this kind of stuff. Yeah, led all the grief and hardship and so forth. And then in another commentary, in an effort to weaken man, Zeus allowed evil into the human world through this woman, through the story of Pandora. Then she sums it up. Because this is 6th grade, so we got 2 chunks going in the 6th grade paragraph. Until they learn how, Like I say, once you learn how to do it, it's a simple matter to add another chunk to it. Okay, so every sentence would have to have, and this is the reminder to them, they will have this reminder, topic sentence, concrete detail, commentary. Okay?
In this pattern,
These are yours, you take this home and read it over.
in this pattern, do you request a certain number of transitions, or do you want like a sentence without one and then the next one have the transition, or?
You usually
Is there
want
guidance
to, you
with
usually
that?
want to transition on every CD sentence.
Do y'all not do 5-paragraph papers?
Yeah.
If you did a 5-paragraph paper, would each paragraph have to look like this?
Yes, ma'am, now what a good question.
The body paragraph.
She's talking
The
about-
body, yeah, the bodies would, so like.
So the
three in the middle. Exactly.
Right. When you
Like
have
all
an
of each.
opening, and then
Have the
you
opening.
have 3, and sometimes you have 4 in the middle.
But at least, the
But in
middle
each,
has to look like that.
yeah, each body paragraph would be chunks. And would have to follow this pattern. If it doesn't, then it's not gonna be any good. I'm just gonna get a bad grade. Let's put it that way. Right, we don't want that. All right, now, just so that you can see what happens, the next page is a paragraph. One of Ms. Ramsey's students, a 10th grade student, wrote just one paragraph. I lifted it out of her paper. The whole paper, the body paragraphs had chunks in them, but I just pulled just this one so that you could see what she has done now. When we write about literature, it's a little bit different because what you want to do when you're looking at a poem and you're writing about the poem, or you're looking at a short story and you're writing about the short story, you want to be able to pull quotes from the poem or quotes from the short story and put them in the CD sentence. So let's look at what this girl has done. All right, she's writing a paper explicating a poem called The Chord. And the chord in the poem refers to a telephone cord. The girl's on the end of the telephone cord and it's really long and she's gone in her room. Isn't that right? Am I remember this right? And she's shutting the door. And so the mother's separate. But she's also thinking of the umbilical cord. And then it also, at the end of the poem, she talks about Persephone and, what's her name?
Demeter.
Thank you. And so the myth. Okay, so this is what this child said. And this, by the way, is an X. She got an A+, right? Yeah, because Rebecca showed it to me. I would have given her an A+. I figured you did too. Okay, here's your topic sentence. There's more to a mother-daughter relationship than what is on the surface level. And Leanne Sullivan, who's the author of the poem, justifies this with her use of symbolism. Now here's your first concrete detail. Notice the way the quotes are used. For example, very important words, for example. The fact that the cord stretches its muscle away from the mother, but she can always pull the cord and take the daughter back, indicates that the title itself, the chord, is a symbol. And she's got the line numbers in there where she's having to give the evidence. And the evidence is, this is the quote from the poem. And how do we know where those quotes go? Because they're there. If you have a copy of the poem in front of you, which the teacher does, then you can look at those line numbers and see that's where those quotes are, that she pulled them. Which sometimes is important. Because I've gone back to the lines before and I thought, you misread that quote, honey. you didn't quite have that clear. So, that's what they're there for. Quotes and line numbers. All right, now she's going to talk about that CD sentence. When presented with a chord, a mother and a daughter without any context, the first thing that comes to mind is an umbilical cord. This is a natural, vital connection, but it eventually must be broken. The same applies for the daughter's dependence on the mother in this poem and in real life. You see what she did was explain what's in that CD sentence. That's very strong commentary. It just opens it up just a little bit more. Now we're going to go to the next chunk. See the in addition? That's a transition phrase. In addition, a certain Greek myth is referenced here. The teenage girl metaphorically disappears behind a door to the underworld, which her mother is prevented from flowing into the room. I'm not sure I typed that correctly. All right. Now here, those are the lines where it is. The quotes are. This is strikingly similar to Persephone and Demeter's story because after venturing too far, Persephone literally gets taken to the underworld while her mother Demeter is left to mourn the loss. However, the two do get to see each other again. By the same token, the daughter has locked herself in her room, separated from her mother, and even though the mother and daughter will probably reaffirm their relationship after the teenage rebellion phase, nothing will ever be the same. Nice. Very nice. She's thinking. And boy, is that not true. That is so true, yes. But the student, what I did was I said, Rebecca, give me one that you thought was pretty good, and just let me type it up and show it to the group. And when I read this, I'm going, whoa, how nice. Very thoughtful. And you see how impressive it is with these chunks and this commentary, and that commentary is good. That kid has nailed it. All right, last chunk. Furthermore, so the transition. Furthermore, the girl's room contains tenuous earth and is perceived by her mother as dark earth. The girl also speaks through a wire that is earthed. Earth, along with fire, water, and air, is one of the classical 4 elements and symbolizes growth. This imagery is predominantly used in the girl's room because her mother is allowing her to develop, to grow, her social life inside these walls. Nice. And then the clincher. The symbolism incorporated in this poem deeper emphasizes the themes of growing up and mother-daughter relationships. See, that's a summary for what the whole paragraph has been about. And because it was on symbolism, she's brought the word symbolism in again. Good work.
Ms. Stone.
Yes?
Also, in this whole process, I've noticed that in this new approach to testing and all that, that it uses elements of literature a great deal in the writing process and in the reading process. And it also outlines, it also uses the quotes
It does.
and the lines. That is used. Now, see, that's different. That's far different from how we did it
That's right.
in our day.
Not the same way.
That's big time different.
Yeah, they definitely
All
have
right,
some
now, let me show you what happens when the kid gets into the 12th grade, okay? This last paper, what happens here, when the AP kids start writing, then I will say, okay, I want chunks, and they will say, do I have to do 3? And I will say, no, you don't. You can do, the idea behind chunks is to write a really good paragraph. If you want to do just 2, if you've got enough to say so that you've got 4 or 5 sentences of commentary, 2 chunks with 4 or 5 sentences of commentary, that's great. Do that. This particular student likes to do the chunks so much that he did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chunks in this paragraph. And I tell them, and believe it or not, there are kids who really do love to write. And they will say, how long is too long? And it's just an opinion, and we know what those are worth, but I will say a page and a half typed, I really don't think a paragraph should go longer than that, because whoever's reading it, and that includes me, is going to forget what we were writing about by the time you get, so I try not to let it go any longer than that. He's stuck within the page and a half. He's done that. All right, let's see. This is about a poem also entitled Slingshot. And in this poem, a boy uses whatever he's got there and makes his own slingshot, and that's a growing up poem, okay? And here's your topic sentence. A glimpse into a boy's summer is only a superficial interpretation of slingshot, for the poem holds far deeper ideas below its surface. That's your topic sentence. All right, first chunk. The poem is about a boy. A boy who changes as he begins to leave his boyhood. Now here's your commentary. The character remains nameless throughout, yet the poem is not in the least a sterile, impersonal account of a moment in a child's life. In leaving the boy unnamed, Kumanyaka, who's the author of the poem, makes of him a timeless mirror in which all readers look and see their own childhood, a time when they were on the threshold of maturity. Third commentary sentence. See, he's gone beyond the requirements. Now he says the third sentence. And so one of the points that the author makes is that we should take a critical look at our own past. You see what he's doing? He's expanding. He's breaking the rules, which I have told him is fine. As long as you know what the rules are, and you've proven you can follow the rules, then when you get to this stage of writing, you can break rules. Yes. And which he clearly did. He had 5 chunks in this paragraph. And, I mean, I'm not going to read the whole paragraph for you, you can read that for yourself, but obviously, he made an A+ on this paper. And he's going to carry this with him into college, and he's going to just breeze through his writing, I'm not kidding. I know he will, for a fact. I'd bet on it. Okay?
I would like to share with parents, my son is not a strong writer. My son is the most literal-minded boy I think Miss Stowers has ever taught. She had him read a poem about a house, a white picket fence, and red roses, and she said, "What does that mean, Richie?" And he said, "It means there's a house, and there's a white picket fence, and there's red roses, Miss Stowers." That's as far as he went with it. Miss Stowers worked with him, and I was encouraging him at home. And when he got to college, he used this chunk writing, and he became so good at it that he preferred to take an essay test than a multiple choice test. He was the one who everybody came to, "Richie, check my paper, what do you think?" And he would say, "I think you need to explain this. I think you don't have enough details here." So it works for students who are gifted writers, but it also works for those who are not. It gives them a framework, a way to organize their thoughts, and a way to develop their ideas. It's a proven method, and it really works.
And I want to share also that this translates into the AP test that they take, where there are extended writing pieces beyond just, the English area, the English. And then our scores on the SAT are some of the best, definitely in South Georgia. We are in the top third in the entire state of high school scores based on this style of writing. Now we're still working on our math scores, but our language scores are second to none in the state. In fact, they probably keep us up there when our math scores need to kind of get there, and we're working on that. So this style of writing transitions not only into the other areas, into AP courses, which count for college credit, which saves the student or the parent, depending on who's paying for it, money, but also into their ability to write well and do well in college, and then be able to express themselves, in the work field and all areas. Okay, so this is not just something to get you through scholars. This is not something just to get you through English at any of our schools. This is a tool that you'll carry with you to be able to express what you know. The biggest disconnect in education today is, I don't think, what we're teaching in terms of the knowledge. It's getting the students to have the tool to express what they know. And I think chunk writing really unlocks a lot of that. And so I encourage you to take this home with you, work with your kids, and then come back. We'll do this again if we need to. I can say, for one, as the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction, we're going to be pushing this down into our elementary schools. We're going to push this into 5th grade and say, we need this to be a prerequisite coming to high school, to middle school, period. Okay? Now, whether you're a scholar, this is for all kids, all 3 elementary schools. So by the end of 5th grade, they have the tools to do this. So we look to try to roll this out in the 2nd semester this year.
I'm glad to hear that, because that was my question to Ms. Ramsey.
Yes, ma'am.
Since it's only taught when they get to middle school, I asked the question, would it be too early for them to teach it by the time they got in 5th grade, introduce it or teach it or what?
I don't think it's too early. I think we can start in 5th grade and teach one chunk and get them to write one chunk well, just to get there. Because in 5th grade, they still come in, some students come in, still not capitalizing, using punctuation, some of the conventions that predate the chunk. So you're still trying to teach the fundamentals, but we also shouldn't wait until 6th grade to start, because there are many students that are ready to take that and go with it. So instead of it being mastered by the end of 5th grade, heavy exposure to it. Some will master it and will come in ready to go. Others will have the foundation to then, when they get to their 6th grade teacher, go, I know what this chunk writing thing is. It's not so foreign. So I think in 5th grade, we can kind of draw that line and say, we're going to teach the fundamentals of chunk writing. Those who are ready for it are going to take it and run. Those who aren't are still going to have a good foundation to build upon when it is a requirement in middle school and a definite tool for high school. Thank you. Any other comments? Yes?
Is the primary way of getting students to learn to do this simply making it a requirement, or is there some other type of remediation that's done to force it upon them when they're not able to do it?
Well, I think in the classes and courses that are here, it's just a requirement, and it's through, I know sitting down with my own child's experience, Elaine loves to write. She came out of elementary school loving to write, and she would sit with notebooks and just write stories and things in it. So it wasn't she's definitely not my child when it comes to that. She's your mother's child when it comes to that, because I was not a writer, did not enjoy it. But she would just write these stories. And so when we came to Miss Honeywell, in that very first 9 weeks, there was a reckoning when it came to what good writing was. She enjoyed to write, but it was not good writing. It was just all over the place. So we had to come and sit and learn, and Elaine learned, and she got some not great grades when it came to that, but she was able then to say, okay, why am I missing the mark? She learned the pattern, and she learned the tool and what to do, and once she got it, she was off to the races. So I do think it is a requirement within class, but along the way we have to teach it as well. It's not just, well, you're just not doing it, go try again. You're just not doing it, go try again. Miss Honeywell sat down after school for hours. She's always available, and it's just 6th grade, in my personal experience. But I think as we roll it down to the elementary schools, we have to do that as well. Teach it, and then have some time to continue to undergird it so they get it. So it's a teaching and not just a, well, this is what it is, you didn't get it, try again, try again, try again. It's, well, you missed it here because. And that's what I know Miss Honeywell did, and so we'll continue to do that elsewhere.
When I have a student that has trouble getting it, like somebody that's come in new, that, they've come into the Scholars Academy and they're in the 11th grade. And they've never had to do chunk writing before. They go, like this. What I do, and I'm sure the other English teachers do the same thing, is require the outline. And when you require the outline, and I require it every time, and if it makes a difference to the kid, to label the sentences like that, then when they get the outline finished, they can take all the labels away, and lo and behold, there's a nice paragraph there. Yeah, it's just a matter of just doing it over and over and over.
And in the 7th grade, with my middle school students, I definitely modeled, writing the chunks. I mean, I get up there, and whether it's a novel we just talked about, and there's a lot of, like we said, themes or satires, what our first unit was on this first 9 weeks. So we've talked about that through Animal Farm and Alice in Wonderland. So they have a lot of ammo. They have a lot of literature that they're, churning over to think about. Then I get up there and, I model the pre-writing, and then we model developing CD sentences, as well as the commentary. And then I think the other thing that reiterates when you're talking about what an individual student needs, with one-on-one, where someone may struggle in a certain area and others may have mastered it and kind of be fine on their own, the conference days are so essential. When it comes time for, truly an assignment that's going to be turned in, they have a formal paper that's due. Most times with 7th, 10th, or 12th graders, I allot at least a week. And you're talking about block times where we have like 100 minutes, and the students put their names on the board, and then they bring, that to me or to the other English teachers. And that way you're able to say, okay, Susan, right here, this is not really commentary. Or I see you've got some awesome CD sentences. You've pulled, amazing quotes. You've woven them into the CD sentences. That reads very smoothly. The syntax is good. But let's focus on the, again, your commentary or the clincher or whatever it is that their weakness may be. So I really think that in terms of the actual instruction, other than just like, here's the outline, this is what we want you to do, between modeling either on the board directly for them or in small groups, and then having the conference days is really essential for meeting the needs of the individual student. So I think I see large gains kind of as we move through the year, the more conference days that they've had. And then if they have like specific convention theirs, maybe they're using comma splices all over the place, or they only write in simple sentences, and we start trying to develop the idea of, again, a mature, strong writer is aware of variety, is thinking about the reader and the impact that it's going to have on them as they're drafting the paper. So I see, great gains through that as the year moves along.
Let me say a word about the conference days. They're really important. If you know that your child has a paper due, then you need to ask him or her, are you having conference days with your teacher? And then the next question is, did you go up and see her today? Did you have something to show her? Because when they come to class and they don't have anything, I can't help them.
Together in a night.
That's why I asked Ms. Honeywell.
And they need to write that at home. They do not need to be counting on getting all the writing done in class. And that's what happened. Rebecca's had this problem, I've had this problem, Dawn's had this problem. Every English teacher on this faculty has got some students, usually more than one, in their classes who will not come up for help during the conference days. It just drives you crazy. And then they turn in this paper and it's just full of mistakes and errors, things that could have been fixed. So that's what you need to do. Ask your son or your daughter, did you go see your English teacher today, and did you get up out of your desk and walk up there and show them what you have written?
Ms. Honeywell, where are you? What school are you? What school are you?
I do 5th grade, 6th grade, 8th grade.
Okay, my daughter's in the 6th grade, Sophie Davis, and I know her. She will come and ask. So that's why I
Okay.
need
We
to-
also have Miss Jessica Lewis, who also teaches 6th grade.
She's at AIM.
Okay, she's at Ames. I believe that Miss Quinette is the English teacher at Ames. And I have, Miss Ramsey and I have gone over there a couple of years now and taught the chunk writing to the Ames teachers.
It's gonna take you and I both to get to her.
Are there any other questions from our parents for our content specialist?
I appreciate you all doing this for us.
Yes.
We're glad to do it.
Well, I wanted to say that it's wonderful to have 3 board members. You don't often have board members that get this involved, and so we have 3 of our board members, and it is a kudo to them to be here and to be a part of this. So I wanted to say thank you, and is there anything that you all would like to say to the group?
Thank you.
I think this is an excellent opportunity to connect with parents and to get them to understand the curriculum. That's what we're doing, that's what we're doing. We're trying to understand the curriculum. At first, we had math night. Math night turned out good. So this time is English night in the Bulldog Cafe. So we like to continue to have these sessions here so that we can make our school better, make our students better. So we want to say a special thanks to Mrs. Stowers. Give her a round of applause. Ms. Ramsey, give her a round of applause. Ms. Honeywell, give her. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Hey, everyone, we will post this on our website. So if you have somebody that wanted to make it tonight, one thing we have learned is everybody has a busy schedule. And one thing that we got a lot of great feedback for was recording the math night and posting it on the website. So if you have a friend or a family member and you go back and you say, you should have been there, and they say, well, I didn't know about it, I didn't get a remind, I didn't, whatever, let them know that we will have this up by the end of the week and they can click on it and it's like watching TV.
The other thing is, and I have to put a special plug into Project Excel now. Project Excel is a youth mentoring program that's trying their best to ensure that all students are having an opportunity to be the best person that they can be. So, thank you again for coming.